Hey everyone, tonight we are slipping through a crack in time, peeling back the layers of dust and myth to find a history that has been waiting in the cold, hard earth. Imagine a vast, unbroken sea of grass, under a sky so wide it feels like the inside of a bowl. On this endless plain, a rider becomes a silhouette, a spear point against the setting sun. Horse and human move as one, their shadows stretching long behind them. This isn't a fantasy novel. This was a Tuesday for the Sarmatians. And frankly, between the fermented mare's milk for breakfast and the constant, biting wind, you probably wouldn't survive it for a week. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to see where you're all tuning in from tonight, so drop your city or country and the local time in the comments. It's always fascinating to see how far these stories travel. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first breath is not of sterile, filtered hospital air, but of wood smoke, damp wool, and the rich, earthy scent of the herd. You are born in a yurt, a portable dome of felt, stretched over a lattice of willow wood. The world outside is a symphony of muffled sounds. The lowing of cattle, the nicker of horses, and the ceaseless whisper of wind combing through thigh-high feather grass. This is the Pontic-Caspian steppe, around the 4th century BCE, and it is the only world you will ever know. There are no walls here, not in the way settled people understand them. Your home, your entire world can be dismantled, packed onto a wagon, and relocated in a matter of hours. Your people follow the grass, and the grass follows the seasons. This is the first and most important lesson, absorbed into your bones before you can even form a thought. Life is movement. Your mother swaddles you not in soft cotton, but in cured hides, and lays you in a cradle that smells faintly of lanolin and smoke. As she works, her movements are economical and sure, her hands calloused from reins and bowstrings. Look closer at your own infant form. Something is different. Your head, still soft and pliable, is being gently but firmly bound with padded strips of leather. This isn't an act of cruelty. It's a mark of status, a tradition to give your skull a distinctive, elongated shape that will mark you as a member of the nobility. It's a quiet, persistent pressure that you will never remember, but its results will last for eternity. A silent testament in your very bones to the culture that shaped you. To outsiders, it might seem bizarre, a fringe practice of a wild people. To your family, it's as normal as braiding their hair. It is a way of saying, even without words, that you belong. You don't learn to walk so much as you learn to ride. Before your legs are strong enough to hold you, you are placed in front of your mother or father on the saddle. The rocking gait of the horse is your lullaby. Its warmth seeps through the leather and hides, a constant living furnace against your small body. Your first sense of speed isn't a crawl across a floor, but a canter across the plain, the wind whipping tears from your eyes that dry instantly on your cheeks. The horizon is a flat, sharp line in every direction, a 360-degree panorama of earth and sky that imprints itself upon your developing mind. There are no mountains to block your view, no forests to hide the sunrise. There is only this endless expanse, a landscape that teaches you humility and possibility in equal measure. Your people are not masters of this land. You are guests, moving across its surface like a ship on a green ocean. Historians still argue whether these vast migrations were purely seasonal, following the best grazing, or if they were often spurred by the complex political dominoes of other steppe tribes pushing from the east. For you, the reason is simple. The chieftain has spoken, the scouts have returned, and it is time to go. Life is lived in the open, under the scrutinizing gaze of the sun and the distant cold watchfulness of the stars. The concept of privacy is a foreign luxury. Your family unit is tight-knit, but the clan is your true home. You can hear the arguments, the laughter, the singing from a dozen other yurts. You learn the scent of every family's cooking fire. There's no door to slam, no room to hide in. This communal existence fosters a blunt honesty and an inescapable sense of interdependence. If a modern parent worries about too much screen time, your parents worry about wolves, flash floods, and the ever-present threat of a rival raiding party. Your toys aren't plastic blocks, they are polished knuckle bones for games of chance, scraps of leather to practice tying knots, and a tiny blunted knife to learn the art of carving. As you grow from an infant into a toddler, the world expands from the confines of the yurt to the bustling, organized chaos of the camp. The air is thick with the smell of animals, thousands of them. Horses, cattle, sheep, and dogs are the currency and sustenance of your people. You learn to read the moods of a horse by the flick of its ear long before you learn to count. You can distinguish the bleat of a lost lamb from the general chorus of the flock. The language you are learning is a flowing, ancient dialect of the Iranian language family, a tongue that will vanish from the earth, leaving only faint traces in the names of rivers and mountains. It is a language perfectly suited to your world, with a dozen words for the different colors of a horseman's coat and the various textures of the snow, but perhaps none for permanent or immovable. Everything in your life, from your home to your gods, is portable. And as you take your first wobbly steps on the hard-packed earth, your eyes are already drawn to the creatures that are the heart of your world. The four-legged souls that will carry you, feed you, and fight alongside you. Your first real bond is not with the soil beneath your feet, but with the living, breathing engine of your culture, the horse. The fascination that began in infancy now becomes an obsession. You spend your days at the edge of the herd, a small, sturdy figure wrapped in sheepskin, watching the endless dance of horses. You see how they communicate with a flick of the ears, a stamp of a hoof, a swish of a tail. You learn their hierarchy, the proud bearing of the lead stallion, the watchful patience of the mares with their foals. This isn't idle observation. It is your primary education. And one day when the sun is high and the air smells of crushed thyme from the passing herds, your father takes your hand and leads you not to the general herd, but to a specific stocky pony tethered near your family's yurt. It's not the most majestic animal. Its coat a dusty brown and its mane thick and tangled. But its eyes are calm and intelligent. This, you are told, is yours. It's like being given your first car at age 5, except this one has a mind of its own and you have to feed it grass instead of gasoline. Getting to know your horse is a ritual of the senses. You are encouraged to touch it, running your small hands over its coarse coat, feeling the twitch of muscle beneath the skin. You press your face into its warm neck and breathe in its scent, a potent mixture of sweat, dust, and something uniquely equine, a smell that will come to mean safety and home. You offer it handfuls of the choicest grasses, letting its soft, whiskered lips tickle your palm. This isn't about dominance, it's about familiarity. The horse needs to learn your scent, your voice, your weight. You in turn must learn its temperament, its fears, its strengths. You are building a language without words, a foundation of trust upon which your life will one day depend. It is a matter of scholarly discussion whether these early bonds were formed through structured training, passed down through generations, or a more intuitive, familial process. But for you, it feels as natural as learning to speak. Then, the real work begins. You are lifted onto its bare back. There is no saddle, no stirrups, no helmet, none of the safety equipment that would be non-negotiable today. Your only tools are your own balance and a desperate grip on its mane. At first, the horse just stands, and even that is a challenge. It is so much higher than you are used to. You can feel the subtle shift of its weight, the expansion of its lungs with every breath. An adult leads it at a slow walk around the camp. Every jolt, every unevenness in the ground threatens to send you tumbling into the dust. And you do fall. You fall constantly. You land with a jarring thud that knocks the wind from you, and before the tears can even well in your eyes, you are told to get up and get back on. There is no coddling. The step is an unforgiving teacher, and the lesson is simple. Hold on. Your thighs and core ache with a fire you've never known. You are building horse muscles, the deep strength in your legs and lower back that will allow you to stay seated through a sudden shy, a sharp turn, or a gallop. This is the anatomical secret of your people, the reason the settled Greeks and Romans will later describe you as being almost fused to your mounts. It starts here, in the punishing, repetitive motions of childhood. Slowly, you progress from a walk to a trot, a jarring, bouncy gait that feels designed to dislodge you. But you learn to predict the rhythm, to move with the horse instead of against it. You learn to grip with your knees, to use your balance to absorb the shock. One day you find you can stay on, your small body a fluid extension of the animal's spine. The tack you are given is rudimentary. No complex metal bit to saw at the horse's mouth. Your first bridle is a simple affair of knotted leather straps, perhaps with a toggle carved from an antler for reinforcement. You learn to guide your mount not by yanking its head around, but with the pressure of a rein against its neck, the shift of your weight in the direction you want to go, the gentle squeeze of your heels against its flanks. It is a partnership, a conversation whispered through motion. This is the beginning of you becoming that six-limbed creature, where your will is translated not through force, but through an instinctual, shared understanding. You learn to read the terrain from your horse's perspective, to trust its judgment when it hesitates at a patch of loose ground or balks at a snake you didn't even see. This relationship isn't about having a fluffy companion to make your life more pleasant. It is your key to survival, your legs, your vantage point, your best chance of seeing the next sunrise. Finally, the day comes when the lead rope is unclipped. You are free. The feeling is dizzying, a surge of power and independence that is utterly intoxicating. You nudge your horse into a canter, then a gallop, and the camp shrinks behind you. The wind roars in your ears, whipping your hair back from your face. The ground becomes a blur of green and brown. For the first time, you are moving faster than any human can run, a small god of speed on your dusty brown pony. You and your horse are no longer two separate beings, but a single fluid entity, skimming across the surface of the world. You race the other children across the plains, your whoops of laughter carried away by the wind, your hearts pounding in unison with the drumming of hooves. Perched on a small hill, you sit atop your horse and survey your world, the great green sea of the steppe. The sun warms your face. Your horse breathes steadily beneath you, and you feel, for the very first time, completely and utterly whole. Now that the back of a horse is as familiar to you as the ground itself, your education enters its second, more lethal phase. Riding is life, but the bow is power. You have seen it your whole life, the effortless way the warriors in your clan can knock, draw, and loose an arrow in the space of a heartbeat, all while at a full gallop. You've seen hunting parties return with deer and saiga antelope, brought down by an arrow placed with surgical precision from 100 paces. The bow is not merely a tool, it is the extension of a warrior's will, the instrument that allows your people to project their strength across the vast, open distances of the steppe. It is the reason a small band of riders can be as dangerous as a much larger force of foot soldiers. This isn't a simple stick with a string you might fashion at summer camp. This is a piece of high-performance ancient technology, and you must learn its secrets from the inside out. Your training begins not on the archery range, but in the smoky, cluttered yurt of the bowyer. Here you learn that a bow is not found, but made. It is a slow, almost sacred process of alchemy, transforming humble organic materials into a deadly engine of stored energy. The bowyer, a man or woman with hands as tough as old leather and eyes that see the hidden life in wood and bone, shows you the components. First, the core, a carefully selected piece of birch or perhaps maple, chosen for its flexibility and lightness. It is shaved down and steamed into a gentle curve. Next, you are shown a long, pale strip of horn, likely from an ibex or a water buffalo, acquired through long-distance trade networks. The horn is scraped and polished until it is perfectly smooth. Finally, the bowyer presents a bundle of sinew, harvested from the long tendons running down the back of a wild ass or a stag. These sinews, when dried and separated, look like threads of raw silk. These three things, wood, horn, and sinew, are the body of the bow. But its soul, you learn, is the glue. The bowyer gestures to a pot simmering over a low fire. The smell that emanates from it is memorable, a pungent, deeply unpleasant odor of boiled fish. You learn that this is the legendary adhesive that holds your world together, made from rendering down the air bladders of sturgeon caught in the great rivers. The resulting glue is thick, sticky, and possesses a bonding strength that is almost supernatural. Let's just say its signature aroma wouldn't make for a best-selling scented candle, but its ability to fuse different materials under immense stress is what makes the composite bow possible. You watch, mesmerized, as the bowyer begins the assembly. A thick layer of the hot, smelly glue is slathered onto the inner curve of the wooden core. the belly of the bow, the part that will face you when you shoot. The polished strip of horn is pressed firmly onto this surface. Horn, the bowyer explains, is incredibly resistant to compression, making it perfect for this side of the bow. Then the outer curve, the back, is coated in glue. The sinew is painstakingly applied, layer after layer, combed out so every fiber is perfectly aligned. Sinew is the opposite of horn. It is a master of resisting tension. This combination is the bow's genius. When drawn, the horn on the belly compresses while the sinew on the back stretches, storing a ferocious amount of energy in a very short, compact frame. This is why your bow can outperform a simple wooden longbow that is almost twice its size. Once assembled, the bow is tightly wrapped in birch bark to protect it from moisture and is then set aside to cure. This is a lesson in patience. The glue must dry and the materials must settle into their new, stressed state. The process can take months, sometimes even a full year, depending on the season and the humidity. It is the absolute antithesis of instant gratification. There is no 2-day delivery for a weapon of this caliber. Experts still debate the precise curing time needed to achieve maximum performance, with some ancient sources suggesting bows were kept in special warm, dry tents for years. During this long wait, you learn to respect the weapon not as an object, but as a living thing that is slowly gathering its strength. When the bow is finally unwrapped, it looks less like a weapon and more like a piece of abstract sculpture. It is unstrung, and its limbs curve forward, away from the archer, in a reflexed shape that looks like a wide letter C. You watch as the bowyer performs the incredible feat of stringing it, bracing the bow against their leg, and using all their strength to bend the stiff limbs back into a shooting profile. Now it is a bow. The final step is tillering, the fine art of shaving away minuscule amounts of material from the limbs to ensure they bend in a perfect, symmetrical arc. A well-tillered bow draws smoothly and shoots accurately. A poorly tillered one will feel clumsy and could even break under pressure. Finally, a smaller, less powerful version is placed in your hands. It feels awkward and alive. You are taught the proper stance, how to hold the arrow against the string with 3 fingers, how to draw it back to a consistent anchor point on your jaw. Your first shots are clumsy. The arrows wobble, flying with none of the grace you see from the adults, and land with a pathetic thud in the dirt just a few paces away. But you persist. Day after day you practice, your fingers growing calloused, your shoulder muscles aching. You are no longer just a child on a horse. You are an archer in training, holding the coiled power of the step in your hands, learning the language of the whispering string and the soaring shaft. Your days are no longer divided into learning to ride or learning to shoot. They are now a seamless, chaotic blend of both. The step is your playground, and your games are deadly serious rehearsals for the life that awaits you. There is no clear line between play and training. Every activity, every contest with the other children in your clan is designed to hone the skills of a mounted warrior. Your action figures are the sun-bleached vertebrae of a wolf, and the only screen you're looking at is the one made of stretched hide on the side of a yurt. This is where the muscle memory of survival is forged, not through lectures, but through bruises, exhaustion, and the fierce joy of competition. At first, the archery games are simple. You and a dozen other children line up on foot, sending arrow after arrow into targets made of packed turf or the skulls of herd animals who didn't survive the winter. The goal is relentless consistency. You learn to ignore the wind, to calculate the drop of the arrow over distance, to make the act of drawing and releasing as unconscious as breathing. Then the targets begin to move. A gourd is rolled down a small hill and you must hit it before it comes to a rest. A leather ball is thrown high into the air, and you must track its arc, a precursor to shooting at swooping birds or a leaping enemy. But you are a child of the horse, and skill on the ground is only a prelude. The true test is to combine your 2 great skills. You begin by shooting from your horse at a standstill, then at a walk. Your patient pony, now your trusted partner, learns to stand steady as you draw the bowstring back past your ear. The real difficulty comes at the trot and the canter. The world is no longer stable. You must absorb the horse's jarring motion with your legs and core, keeping your upper body impossibly still to aim. Your first dozen attempts are comical failures. your arrows flying wildly into the sky or burying themselves in the dirt far from the target. But with every failure you learn. You learn to time your release with the moment of suspension in the horse-ass gallop. That fractional second when all four hooves are off the ground, when the platform is at its most stable. Once you have a sliver of competence, the games become far more dynamic and dangerous. One favorite is a mounted version of tag, but it's a bit like tag if tag involved trying to knock your friends off a speeding horse with a well-thrown rope lasso. Health and safety manuals were, let's say, not a high priority. You learn to swerve, to duck, to use your horse's body as a shield, all while maneuvering to get a clean shot at your opponent. Another game involves mounted wrestling, a chaotic free-for-all where the objective is simply to unhorse the other rider. You grapple, you push, you pull, learning to use your opponent's momentum against them, and to lock your own legs so tightly around your horse that you become an immovable object. The most intense game, the one that is a direct dress rehearsal for a raid, is the mock battle with blunt arrows. You are divided into two teams, your faces perhaps daubed with clay in your team's color. The arrows you use are tipped not with sharpened bronze, but with padded leather or smooth, rounded bone. They won't pierce skin, but they hit with a vicious thud that can crack a rib, knock the wind out of you, or send you tumbling from your saddle if you're caught off balance. Anthropologists disagree on whether these chaotic melees had official rules and adult referees, or if they were simply governed by the brutal ad hoc justice of children. From your perspective, it is a whirlwind of whooping cries, thundering hooves, and the whistle of incoming arrows, where the only real rule is to hit more than you are hit. You, as a young girl, are in the thick of it, expected to give as good as you get. It's debated whether girls and boys participated in all the same games across the nomadic world. But here, among the Sarmatians, your gender is irrelevant when you have a bow in your hand. When you're not engaged in these large-scale war games, there are quieter, though no less competitive pursuits. You play for hours with animal knucklebones, called astragali. On the ground, you use them for games of chance and dexterity, flicking them with your thumb to knock over other bones like ancient marbles. But even this simple game is adapted for a mounted life. A course is laid out with small holes dug in the ground, and you must ride by at a canter, attempting to drop a knucklebone into each one. A test of timing, balance, and precision that will one day translate to dropping an arrow into the weak spot in an enemy Kaj's armor. You learn that losing in these games doesn't just mean you don't get a trophy. It might mean you're on the least desirable watch duty that night, or that your friends have bragging rights over you for a week. The stakes are always just a little bit higher, instilling a competitive fire that will serve you well. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the steppe, your mock battle comes to an end. You are covered in dust, your cheek is smarting where a blunt arrow grazed it, and your arm aches from grappling with another rider, but you are smiling. You landed 3 solid hits and, in a daring move, managed to unhorse an older, bigger boy. This is more than play. It is the forging of your identity, the brutal, exhilarating process of becoming a warrior. As the playful chaos of your childhood games begins to sharpen into genuine skill, you start to see the world of the adults with new eyes. You look past the simple actions of daily life and begin to perceive the intricate social web of your clan. And what you see, what you absorb as the fundamental truth of your world, is that the lines drawn between men and women are almost invisible in the dust of the steppe. The concept of a woman's place being a quiet domestic sphere is a fiction you will never hear. Your home is a 10-mile radius of grazing land, your hearth is a fire pit in the open air, and a woman's place is wherever she is needed most. You watch your mother and the other women of the clan. They are not delicate figures hidden away from the world. When it is time to move the camp, it is often the senior women who direct the massive logistical operation. Their voices are sharp and clear, cutting through the noise of the herds and the creaking of the wagons, assigning tasks and resolving disputes with an air of unassailable authority. They organize the packing of the yurts, the management of the food supplies, and the rotation of the watch. The division of labor is less about gender and more about a simple, brutal pragmatism. Who is the best person for the job right now? It's a very practical approach to project management that ensures the survival of the group. This reality is not born from some abstract philosophy of equality. It is forged in the hard calculus of nomadic life. A significant portion of the clan's men might be away for weeks at a time on a long-distance raid or tracking elusive game. The camp, with its precious herds, children, and elders, cannot be left undefended. Survival dictates that the remaining adults, men and women alike, must be capable warriors, ready to pick up a spear or a bow to fend off wolves or rival clans. You see this with your own eyes. A hunting party rides out, and among the figures on horseback are women you know, their bows slung over their shoulders, their expressions as keen and focused as any man's. It is in these moments that you truly understand your training in the mock battles isn't just for fun, it's your future. The Greeks to the south, hearing tales of your lifestyle, would probably need to sit down and have a long think. Women owning property, women speaking in council, women riding into battle. It's all terribly scandalous to a world that keeps its women behind high walls. The domestic skills you learn are themselves a form of industrial production vital to your people's military might. You are taught how to treat animal hides, scraping them clean and working them with fats until they are supple enough for clothing or tough enough for armor. You learn the ancient rhythmic art of making felt, matting and pressing wool together to create the warm, waterproof skins for the yurts. You learn to fletch an arrow, carefully selecting the right feathers and gluing them to the shaft with fish glue and sinew, ensuring a straight and stable flight. You learn all of this with the same focus and pride that a Greek girl might learn to weave a tapestry. Both are useful skills, certainly, but only one is particularly handy when a rival scouting party is spotted on the horizon. You listen during the clan councils held around the main fire. You hear your mother's voice, and the voices of other high-ranking women carry the same weight as your father's. They speak on matters of migration routes, of trade agreements, of war. Historians and archaeologists continue to debate the extent of female authority in Sarmatian society, whether it was a true matriarchy, where women held primary power, or matrilineal, where lineage was traced through the mother, or simply a far more egalitarian partnership than was common in the ancient world. To you, these are meaningless labels. What you see is simply what is, a world where strength, wisdom, and courage are respected regardless of who possesses them. You see this embodied in the clan's matriarch, an old woman whose face is a roadmap of wrinkles and old scars. She holds immense respect. You watch her one evening as she prepares for a ritual. She pulls her treasures from a leather pouch, among them a heavy bronze mirror. Its back is etched with swirling images of griffins and stags. She isn't using it to check her appearance. She holds the polished surface up to catch the last rays of the setting sun, angling the reflected light onto a small altar of stones while chanting in a low voice. The mirror, you sense, is not an object of vanity, but a tool of power, a conduit to the spirit world, a symbol of her status and wisdom that has nothing to do with beauty and everything to do with authority. And you know that when she dies, this mirror, along with her weapons and her finest horse, will be buried with her. Your own path is laid out before you, not as a narrow track, but as a wide, open plain of possibilities. You can be a mother, raising the next generation. You can be a wife, forging an alliance between families. But you can also be a warrior, a huntress, a chieftain. There is no contradiction. They are all facets of what it means to be a Sarmatian woman. You are in a strange limbo now, a space between worlds. Your body is strong, your seat on the horse is unshakable, and your aim with the bow is true. You can best most of the boys your age in a wrestling match and all of them in a race. By all practical measures, you are a warrior. But in the eyes of the clan, in the unwritten laws that govern your life, you are still unproven. You have not yet crossed the final blood-red threshold into adulthood. Your cultured equivalent of a debutante ball or a sweet 16 involves significantly more sharp objects and a much higher chance of mortal peril. You are waiting for your first real battle. The wait is not long. Scouts return one evening with news. A rival tribe, pushed west by pressures you don't yet understand, is grazing their herds on your clan's traditional summer pastures. It is a brazen challenge, an insult that cannot be ignored. A war party is to be assembled, not for a full-scale war, but for a sharp, brutal skirmish to assert dominance and drive the intruders off. As the warriors gather, your father approaches and gives you a single sharp nod. Make ready, is all he says. A current of ice and fire shoots through you. This is it. This is your chance. The preparation is a blur of methodical, familiar actions that suddenly feel alien and heavy with significance. You brush down your horse, whispering assurances into its twitching ear, sharing your own nervous energy with your trusted partner. You check your saddle, the leather straps, the simple bridle. Then, you turn to your weapons. You test the string of your bow, listening for the familiar, satisfying hum. You run a whetstone along the edge of your small dagger. Finally, you inspect your arrows, your gaze lingering on the tips. You're not looking for the blunt, bone-tipped arrows of your childhood games. You're looking for the business end of your collection. You select an arrow with a menacing three-bladed bronze head. This trilobate design with its sharp wing-like edges is engineered not just to pierce, but to tear, creating a devastating wound that is nearly impossible to close or extract. It feels cold and heavy in your hand. It feels real. As you ride out with the war party, the sun warm on your back, the ancient law of your people echoes in your mind. The Greek storytellers to the south, like Herodotus, would write of your kind with a mixture of awe and disbelief, claiming that no woman is permitted to marry until she has killed an enemy in battle. Historians still debate how literally that account should be taken. Was it a rigid law for every single woman, or a cultural expectation for the warrior class? Was it a formal, ritualized duel, or simply a requirement to have proven oneself in any skirmish? For you, riding towards a confrontation with your heart pounding against your ribs, the academic nuance is irrelevant. You feel the weight of this tradition as a personal quest. To gain your full name, to be considered a true woman of the tribe, you must prove you can take a life to protect the lives of your clan. The ride is long and silent, a stark contrast to the boisterous energy of a hunt. The veteran warriors around you are calm, their faces like stone masks. The only sounds are the rhythmic thunder of 200 hooves on the dry earth and the creak and jingle of leather and bronze. The air itself seems tense, pregnant with violence. You taste dust and fear in the back of your throat. Then you see them, a cluster of riders on the horizon, watching your approach. The enemy. There is no complex strategy here, no intricate maneuvering. Your leader raises his spear, a guttural cry is ripped from his throat, and the cry is answered by everyone around you. You add your own voice to the roar as you kick your horse into a full, earth-devouring gallop. The distance closes with terrifying speed. The cluster of riders becomes a line of individual men, their faces contorted in their own war cries. The air fills with a high-pitched whistle as the first volleys of arrows are exchanged. An arrow zips past your ear so close you feel its passage as a breath of wind. The world dissolves into a maelstrom of dust, sweat, and chaos. You see a warrior to your left fall with a grunt, his horse running on without him. There is no time for fear, only for instinct, the thousands of hours of training taking over your body. You isolate a target, a rider on a dark horse, his arm raised to throw a spear. You move as you have in your games 1,000 times. You guide your horse with your knees, clearing a line of sight. You pull an arrow from your quiver, knocking it to the string in a single fluid motion. You draw the bowstring back to your jaw, the world narrowing to the space between you and your target. Time stretches, becoming thick and syrupy. You see the pattern on his tunic, the wild look in his eyes. You release. The string snaps forward. The arrow, your bronze-tipped trilobate arrow, is gone. You see it? A flicker of darkness against the brown earth, and then you see it strike. The man's body jerks backward, the spear flying harmlessly from his hand. He slumps forward onto his horse's neck and then slides sideways, falling from the saddle in a clumsy heap. It is over in a second. The violent act is followed by an unnerving, profound silence in your own mind. The battle rages around you for a few moments longer, but the enemy, having lost a few riders and seeing your superior numbers, breaks and flees. Your war party gives a short, triumphant chase before letting them go. The message has been sent. The ride back to camp is different. The tension is gone, replaced by a grim, weary satisfaction. A few of the older warriors ride by, giving you a rough, approving slap on the shoulder. No words are needed. They saw, they know. You have crossed the line. There's no grand ceremony or party when you return. The prize for surviving your first battle is simply this: you get to do it again. But as you dismount, you know you are no longer the girl who rode out that morning. You are a killer. You are a defender. You are a Sarmatian woman, and you have earned your name. Years have passed since that first chaotic, blood-soaked skirmish. The memory is still there, a hard knot in your stomach, but it is now overlaid with the dust and scars of a dozen other raids and patrols. You are no longer an untried girl seeking to prove herself. You are a warrior, your movements economical, your eyes constantly scanning the horizon. Your place in the war party is earned and unquestioned. Your life has found its rhythm, a cycle of migration, hunting, and the sudden, brutal punctuation of warfare. And tonight, you are going to war. This is different from the defensive actions you fought before. This is not about pushing back an intruder. This is a raid, a deliberate, calculated act of aggression. A neighboring clan has grown too proud, their herds too fat, and they have refused to pay the tribute of horses and hides that your chieftain demanded. It's a matter of academic contention whether these raids were a grim necessity driven by the harsh realities of a steppe life where resources were scarce, or if they were the engine of a raiding economy, a primary way for warriors to gain wealth status and political power. For you, the reason is much simpler. They have something you want, and you are strong enough to take it. The goal tonight is not honor or territory. It's what your people might call involuntary asset reallocation. You're here for their horses. The raiding party assembles not with a great cry to arms, but with the quiet efficiency of a wolf pack gathering for a hunt. You are a small, elite force, perhaps 40 or 50 riders, chosen for your speed and skill. You will travel light, carrying only your weapons, a few strips of dried meat, and a water skin. There are no cumbersome supply wagons. Speed and stealth are your greatest assets. You slip out of your own camp under the cover of dusk, a silent column of ghosts melting into the vast, darkening landscape. Your family watches you go, their faces impassive. This is the way of things. The journey is made almost entirely at night. The moon is a thin silver sickle, providing just enough light to see the shadowy forms of the riders in front of you. To minimize noise, you've taken a precaution. Thick pads of felt have been tied around your horse's hooves, muffling the hard clatter of hoof on stone and dry earth. The sound of your passage is reduced to a series of soft, rhythmic thuds, a sound that is swallowed by the endless whisper of the night wind through the grass. It's the ancient equivalent of putting your phone on silent mode, except you're doing it to a 1,000-pound war machine. The silence is profound, broken only by the creak of your saddle leather and the occasional soft snort of a horse. You ride with your bow in your hand, its string protected from the night dew by a leather cover. You navigate by an internal compass honed over a lifetime. There are no roads, no signposts, only the star-dusted map of the sky above and the subtle contours of the land below. You recognize the shape of a distant, low-lying hill, the curve of a dry riverbed, the particular scent of the air that tells you a salt marsh is nearby. Your world is a tapestry of sensory details that a person from a settled land would never even notice. You are not passing through a landscape. You are a part of it, as attuned to its rhythms as the wolves and the eagles. As you draw within a few miles of your target, the pace slows. A scout sent ahead hours before materializes out of the darkness and communicates with your leader in a series of sharp, precise hand signals. The enemy camp is ahead. They are unsuspecting. The final approach is made on foot, you and your fellow warriors dismounted, leading your felt-shod horses by the reins, every step taken with deliberate care. The tension is a physical thing now, a coiling in your gut, a dryness in your mouth. Every rustle of grass, every dislodged pebble sounds like a thunderclap in the oppressive silence. You take up your position on a shallow ridge overlooking the enemy encampment. It lies sprawled in a dip in the terrain, a collection of dark, rounded yurts, their smoke holes breathing thin wisps of gray into the pre-dawn air. The great mass of their herd, hundreds of horses your prize, is held in a makeshift corral on the far side of the camp. You see the faint orange glow of a couple of dying watchfires and the silhouettes of a few guards, leaning sleepily on their spears. You settle down to wait for the first light. It's the least exciting part of the job, this cold, tense waiting. There's a lot of just sitting in the dark, watching, your muscles cramping, thinking about breakfast. Even ancient warriors get hungry. The leader crawls from warrior to warrior, issuing final whispered instructions. The plan is brutally simple. A small team of the best archers, including you, will initiate the attack, loosing arrows at the guards to create chaos and confusion. The rest of the force will use that moment to charge past the yurts and stampede the horse herd, driving them out of the camp and into the open steppe where they can be rounded up. As the eastern sky begins to bleed from black to a pale, ghostly gray, you see the first signs of movement in the camp below. A figure emerges from a yurt to relieve a guard. It is time. You swing silently onto your horse's back, peeling the leather cover from your bowstring. You nock an arrow, its bronze tip seeming to glow faintly in the twilight. You take a slow, deep breath, the cold air stinging your lungs. The signal is given, a perfect imitation of a hawk's cry. The silence is about to end. You don't even think. You draw, anchor, and release. The hawk cry is still echoing in the pale gray air as your first arrow, and those of the warriors beside you, arc down into the sleeping camp. Among them are a few specially designed shafts. They are tipped not with bronze but with hollowed-out bone carved with small sinister holes. As they fly, they emit a horrifying rising shriek, a sound that rips through the morning quiet like a demon's scream. It's the original shock and awe, a terrifying wail that announces not just an attack, but the arrival of a nightmare. The psychological impact is instantaneous and devastating. Guards who were half asleep moments before are now frozen in terror, their eyes wide, searching the sky for the source of the sound. That moment of stunned panic is all your main force needs. With a collective roar that seems to shake the very ground, they surge down from the ridge, a wave of horse and warrior, descending upon the camp. The muffled thud of felt-wrapped hooves is replaced by the raw, open-throated thunder of a cavalry charge. The world erupts into a cacophony of bronze and bone. The air fills with the screams of the dying, the frantic shouts of warriors scrambling for their weapons, and the terrified high-pitched whinnying of horses. From your perch, you continue your deadly work. A calm, methodical eye in a hurricane of violence. You are no longer one person. You are part of a machine. You see a warrior emerge from a yurt, spear in hand, and before he can set his feet, your arrow takes him in the chest. You see another attempting to rally a defense, and an arrow from the rider next to you silences him. Knock, draw, release. Knock, draw, release. The rhythm is automatic, drilled into you by a decade of relentless practice. The initial, overwhelming shock of the charge splinters the camp's defense before it can even form. The battle devolves from a coordinated assault into a series of brutal individual encounters. A rider from your clan clashes with an enemy, their swords ringing like bitter bells. You see a spear shatter against a leather shield. The smell of dust, sweat, and fresh blood rises from the melee. Any grand strategy you had has now boiled down to a simple, bloody algorithm. Inflict as much damage as possible, while the other team drives off the horses. Plans, as they say, rarely survive contact with the enemy. Your primary job has now become, try not to get stabbed and point the sharp end at the other guys. While the fighting rages among the yurts, a specialized group of your warriors has already reached the horse herd. With swift, brutal efficiency, they cut the hide ropes of the corral, and with loud cries and the flat of their swords, stampede the terrified animals out of the enclosure and onto the open steppe. This is the prize. This is why you are here. But the enemy is not entirely broken. A small, disciplined group of their own warriors who managed to reach their mounts now thunders out of the camp, ignoring the main fight and charging directly for your position on the ridge. They mean to cut you off, to stop the suppressing fire. Your leader gives a sharp cry. It is time to move. You wheel your horse around and begin a feigned retreat, riding away from the charging enemy. They take the bait, their cries triumphant as they pursue what they believe is a routed foe. You let them get close enough that you can hear the panting of their horses. Then, in a move that is as natural to you as breathing, you rise in your saddle, twist your entire torso around and fire your bow backwards over the rump of your galloping horse. It is a maneuver of incredible skill and balance, the signature tactic of the steppe warrior. Your arrow flies true, taking the lead pursuer in the throat. He pitches from his saddle with a choked cry. It's a nasty surprise for anyone chasing you, a leading cause of suddenly having an arrow in your chest syndrome among your enemies. The riders behind him pull up in confusion, their charge broken. The raid has lasted perhaps 10 minutes, but it feels like an eternity. Military historians have long debated the precise command structure of nomadic warbands, whether one leader directed the entire battle, or if smaller units operated with near-total autonomy. From your perspective, swirling in this vortex of violence, there are no grand orders, only a shared intent, the unspoken understanding between you and the warrior next to you, and the instinct to exploit every opening. The hawk cry sounds again, sharp and clear, the signal to withdraw. The horse herd is secured, the enemy is in disarray, the mission is accomplished. You provide one last volley of arrows to cover the retreat of your comrades from the camp, and then you are gone, melting back into the landscape as quickly as you appeared. You gallop hard for a mile, putting distance between you and the ruined camp, the adrenaline singing in your veins. The sun is climbing the sky now, its clean morning light illuminating the brutal efficiency of your work. In the days following the raid, the camp is a hive of activity. The newly acquired horses are integrated into the herd, wounds are tended to, and gear is meticulously repaired. The adrenaline of the charge has faded, leaving behind the quiet, professional hum of post-operation maintenance. Your body is bruised, your muscles ache, but you are alive and victorious. You sit in the sun outside your yurt, your bow restrung, your arrows refletched. Now, you turn to the most valuable and cumbersome piece of your kit, your armor. It lies beside you on a stretched hide, a dormant metallic serpent, glittering in the daylight. This is your battle skin, your second, harder self. It is a heavy jerkin of thick, cured leather, onto which hundreds, if not thousands, of small overlapping plates have been painstakingly sewn. Each plate, or scale, is a rectangle of dark iron, about the size of your thumb, with small holes punched into it for the sinew thread. They are arranged in neat overlapping rows like the scales of a fish or a mythical dragon, creating a continuous, flexible shell of metal. Looking at it, you can feel the hours of labor it represents. The smith who forged and hammered the iron, the craftsperson who cut and punched each individual scale, and the armorer who sat for weeks patiently stitching them all into place. Such a garment is a mark of high status. A concentration of the clan is wealth and skill embodied in a single object designed to keep you alive. You have seen other types of armor, born from the resourcefulness of the steppe. When iron is scarce, your people find other ways to protect themselves. You once saw an old warrior wearing a corselet made of scales cut from the bony plates of a giant sturgeon. Even more common is armor made from horse hooves. You've witnessed the process. The hard outer casings of hooves are collected, boiled for hours in a great pot, until they become soft and pliable like thick leather. Then they are cut, flattened, and dried into incredibly tough, lightweight plates. It is a testament to the core philosophy of your people. Nothing is wasted, and the solution to any problem can be found in the world around you. But your armor is iron, and it is heavy. Putting it on is a ritual in itself, one that requires assistance. You slip a padded tunic on first to prevent chafing, then you shrug your arms into the heavy leather jerkin. Your brother or sister helps you pull it into place and fastens the thick leather ties at your back and sides. The weight, a good 30 or 40 pounds, settles onto your shoulders and hips. It's a familiar, oppressive feeling, like getting a very aggressive, very heavy hug from a robot. The first time you wore it for a full day of riding, you discovered aches in muscles you never knew you had. Now, you are accustomed to it, your body hardened to its constant embrace. Moving in the armor is a lesson in deliberate action. It restricts your movement just enough to make you mindful of every turn, every bend. You can still ride, draw your bow, and fight, but there is a slight, constant resistance. And it is never silent. With every step you take, the iron scales shift and whisper against each other. A constant rhythmic clink, clink jingle. You sound like a one-person percussion section, a sound that is magnificent and terrifying in a charge, but makes any attempt at stealth utterly impossible. There's an ongoing debate among experimental archaeologists about the precise trade-off between the weight of armor like yours and the mobility it afforded the rider. You live this debate every time you wear it. The heavy iron can turn a sword blade or stop an arrow that would have killed you, but it saps your stamina and, more importantly, the stamina of your horse. Maintenance is a constant, tedious chore. After the raid, you spend the better part of a day inspecting your armor. You find one scale dented by a glancing blow, and another where the sinew stitching has started to fray. Rust is the ever-present enemy, a creeping orange death that can eat through a scale or weaken a stitch. You meticulously clean each plate with sand and oil, and with a needle made of bone. You carefully replace the frayed sinew. It's like owning a high-maintenance pet that has no affection for you. If you neglect it, a single weak point can compromise the entire garment, and that's a fatal mistake you can only make once. When the repairs are done and the sun is low in the sky, you put it on one more time just to feel its balance. You walk to your horse, who is long accustomed to the armor's weight and sound. You swing into the saddle, the leather groaning in protest. As you sit mounted, the last rays of the sun catch the overlapping scales. The dark iron gleams like polished obsidian, and you are transformed. You are no longer just a woman on a horse. You are a glittering, deadly force, a semi-mythical creature fused of flesh, horse, and metal. The armor is not just protection. It is a statement of power, a visual manifestation of your identity as a warrior, designed to strike fear into the hearts of your enemies before you even draw your bow. Your bow is your voice on the steppe, speaking a language of swift, silent death from a distance. Your scale armor is your shield, a hard shell against the violent arguments of the world. But warfare is an unpredictable beast. Sometimes the distance closes, the swirling cavalry charge becomes a desperate, close-packed melee, and the elegant geometry of archery collapses into a brawl. For these moments, you have the blade, or more accurately, the blades. Your bow is for surgical strikes. Your sword is for when the party gets a little too crowded and you need to ask people to leave, forcefully. Hanging at your side in a scabbard of wood and decorated leather is your longsword. It is a formidable piece of iron, nearly a meter long, straight-backed and double-edged. It's not the nimble fencing blade of other cultures. It is a horseman's weapon, designed for the brutal physics of a cavalry charge. Its length gives you the reach to slash downwards at an enemy on foot, or to cleave through the defenses of a fellow rider. The hilt is simple but functional, wrapped in stained leather for grip, and the pommel is a heavy sphere of cast bronze to provide balance. It is a tool, but it is also a thing of beauty. Debate continues among weapons historians as to whether the design of your longsword was a purely native invention of the steppes, or if it was influenced by the long blades of the Celtic peoples to the west encountered through the intricate webs of trade and war. Drawing it from its scabbard produces a satisfying ringing shing that is its own kind of war cry. In your hand, it feels alive, a weighted extension of your arm. It is a status symbol, a clear sign that you are a warrior of some renown, as a blade of this quality represents a significant portion of your personal wealth. The scabbard itself might be adorned with plates of gold, embossed with the spiraling animal motifs that are the signature of your people's art. It's a practical tool for ending lives, certainly, but your culture sees no reason why it can't also be fashionable. A little bit of gold inlay really makes the whole deadly ensemble pop, but for all its grandeur and power, the longsword is not the weapon that decides most close-quarters fights. For that, you have its smaller, uglier, and infinitely more intimate cousin, the dagger. Sheathed on your belt, where it can be drawn with either hand, is your akinakis. It is a short, broad-bladed dagger, perhaps the length of your forearm, with a sharply tapering point. It is purely a thrusting weapon. Its function is grim and simple, to find the gaps. It is for the desperate wrestling fights in the dust after you've been unhorsed, or for the final, brutal moments of grappling with an enemy rider. The longsword makes statements. The akinakis finishes arguments. It's the full stop at the end of a very violent sentence. Your dagger is a deeply personal item. Unlike your sword, which feels like a formal piece of military equipment, your dagger feels like a part of you. Its hilt is its most remarkable feature. It is not a simple grip, but is cast in bronze in the shape of a stylized human figure, a deity, or perhaps a revered ancestor. The figure's outstretched arms form the crossguard, its body the grip, its head the pommel. When you hold it, your hand closes around this small metal effigy. It gives the weapon a talismanic quality, as if you are not fighting alone, but with the spirit of the blade in your hand. This anthropomorphic design transforms a simple tool into a conduit of spiritual power. You spend hours training with both. You practice slashing at wooden posts from the back of your cantering horse, learning to put the full momentum of the charge behind a single devastating swing of your longsword. The movements are broad, powerful, and open. Training with the dagger is a different, uglier affair. It is quiet, close work. You learn the anatomy of the vulnerable places on a body that a short blade can reach. The gap between the helmet and the collar of the armor, the soft tissue under the arm, the femoral artery high on the inner thigh. You practice with a partner, a slow, careful dance of attack and parry, learning to use leverage and speed in a space too confined for a long blade. You remember a fight from 2 summers ago, a chaotic skirmish in a riverbed. Your horse stumbled on a slick rock, and you went down hard. Your sword was flung from your hand. Before you could recover, an enemy warrior was on top of you, his own blade raised. The world became a desperate, grunting struggle in the mud and shallow water. He was bigger and stronger, his weight pinning you down. Your armored fists did nothing. Just as you felt your strength failing, your right hand found the hilt of your akanakis. You drew it, the small, familiar bronze god filling your palm. You didn't have space for a wide swing, only for a short, powerful, upward thrust. You found the gap below his ribs. The fight was over. You carry that memory with you always. The sword is for the battle, the dagger is for survival. When the fighting is done, the gear is mended, and the horses are tended to, you finally return to the center of your world. It is not a building of stone or a plot of land, but a small, round universe of felt and wood, your family's yurt. From the outside, it is a humble, unassuming dome, its gray or brown felt blending into the colors of the steppe. But to cross its threshold is to enter another realm, a space of warmth, intimacy, and order in the vast, chaotic wilderness. It's the original pop-up house, a marvel of portable engineering that can be dismantled and packed on a wagon in an hour, and reassembled faster than most modern flat-pack furniture with far less frustration. As you approach the low wooden door, you instinctively duck your head and take a wide, deliberate step over the raised threshold. This is one of the first rules you ever learned. The threshold is a sacred boundary between the wild world outside and the ordered world within, and to tread upon it is to show profound disrespect to the home and its spirits. Stepping on the threshold is a major social foul, the ancient equivalent of leaving your shoes on and putting your feet up on the host's dinner table. It's simply not done. Once inside, you move automatically to the left, the side of the yurt designated for women and their work. The men occupy the right, and the space directly opposite the door, the most honored position, is reserved for elders, esteemed guests, or the family's small collection of ritual objects. The air inside is thick with the smells of life. A small fire smolders in a central clay-lined pit, and a thin column of smoke rises gracefully to the smoke hole in the roof's crown. The interior has a unique perfume, a rich blend of that smoke, the oily lanolin scent of the wool felt, drying meat, old leather, and the ever-present aroma of the herd that clings to your clothes. It's an acquired scent, to be sure, but to you, it is the smell of safety and home. The light is dim, filtered through the layers of felt, casting a warm reddish glow over everything. The floor is not bare earth, but is layered with thick felt rugs and brightly colored woven mats that insulate from the cold ground and provide a soft surface to sit and sleep on. This small circular space is your living room, your kitchen, your bedroom, and your workshop, all in one. From the latticed wooden walls hang leather bags and pouches of all sizes, containing everything from dried cheeses and herbs to the tools for fletching arrows and the bone needles for sewing hides. You see your mother sitting near the fire, her hands busy weaving a colorful band of wool that will be used to help secure the yurt-ass outer coverings. Her movements are quick and precise, a quiet counterpoint to the violent skills you practice outside. Near her, your father is carving a piece of birchwood, slowly shaping it into a new saddle tree. In this space, the ferocity of the warrior gives way to the patient skill of the artisan. The inside of the yurt is not drab. The roof poles are often painted with geometric designs in red ochre, and large felt tapestries or tushkias hang against the walls. These are decorated with intricate applique patterns of swirling ram's horns, sun symbols, and images of the tree of life. Archaeologists still debate the specific symbolic meanings of these vibrant designs, whether they were purely for beauty or if they served as cosmological maps, records of family lineage, or powerful charms to protect the yurt's inhabitants. To you, they are simply the beautiful, familiar wallpaper of your life, the first patterns your infant eyes ever learned to trace. As evening deepens, the yurt becomes the social heart of the family. The day's single large meal is prepared, often a simple, hearty stew of boiled mutton and wild onions, served with hard, salty cheese made from sheep's milk. You all gather around the fire, sharing food from a common pot. After the meal, as the fire dies down to glowing embers, the stories begin. An elder, perhaps your grandmother, clears her throat and her low, raspy voice fills the intimate space. She tells the old tales of the creation of the world from the body of a giant, of the hero who stole fire from the sky gods, of the cunning fox spirit that plagues the herds. This is your library, your cinema, your church. The history and soul of your people are not written in books but are carried in the breath and memory of your elders, passed down in the flickering firelight from one generation to the next. Finally, the stories end, and sleep comes. You unroll your bed, a simple pile of sheepskins and a thick wool blanket, and settle into the warm darkness. The wind howls outside, a distant, lonely sound, but inside the yurt, you are cocooned in security. You hear the soft, rhythmic breathing of your family around you. The yurt is the hearth that moves with you, the constant center in a life of constant motion. It is the womb of your culture, the place you are born, the place you are nurtured, and the place from which you ride out to face the world. Your life is fueled by the herd. Every calorie you consume, every bit of strength in your muscles, is a direct product of the walking, breathing larder that surrounds your camp. The concept of agriculture, of tying oneself to a single plot of earth to painstakingly grow food, is utterly alien to you. Why would you scrape at the dirt for a handful of grain when the steppe itself provides a sea of grass, which your animals can convert into an endless supply of meat, milk, and power? Your people have 1,000 words for the nuances of a horse's temperament, but the word salad is not among them. The food pyramid here is less of a pyramid and more of a solid, meaty, dairy-filled rectangle. Meat is the foundation of every proper meal. The most common dish, the daily staple you eat in the yurt, is boiled mutton. While roasting over an open fire is saved for celebrations, boiling is ruthlessly efficient. It wastes none of the precious fat, tenderizes the toughest cuts, and creates a rich, nourishing broth that is drunk from the same bowl. Waste is a foreign concept. You eat virtually every part of the animal, from the tongue to the tail. Organs are delicacies, rich in vitamins. What little isn't consumed is used for something else. The hide for armor, the bones for tools, the sinew for bowstrings. It's the ultimate sustainable, zero-waste lifestyle, just with a significantly higher daily intake of cholesterol. For the long journeys, meat is preserved by cutting it into thin strips, salting it and hanging it to dry in the wind or over a low, smoky fire fueled by dried animal dung. This jerky is tough as leather, but it will keep for months and provides a potent, portable source of protein. If meat is the foundation, milk is the river of life that flows through your culture. It is consumed in a dozen different forms, each one a clever solution to the problem of preservation. Fresh milk from sheep or goats is a treat, but it doesn't last. Most of it is immediately processed. Some is heated and soured to create a thick, tangy yogurt. Much of it is turned into hard, salty cheese. You know the process by heart. The milk is curdled, the whey is drained off, and the remaining curds are pressed into hard cakes and left to dry in the sun until they are as hard as rocks. These cheese rocks are a traveler's best friend, incredibly nutritious, and they never spoil. But the most important of all dairy products, the drink that is both food and social lubricant, comes from the animal you value most, the horse. You are taught how to milk the mares, a quick, gentle process. The milk is thinner and sweeter than a cow's. It is rarely drunk fresh. Instead, it is poured into a large, smoky leather bag, a churn called a saba, that hangs inside the yurt. Every time someone enters or leaves, they give the bag a few vigorous pushes. This constant agitation, combined with the unique blend of bacteria living in the well-used leather, ferments the milk, transforming its sugars into lactic acid and a small amount of alcohol. The resulting beverage is kumis. It's a sour, milky white, slightly effervescent drink that tingles on the tongue. It's an acquired taste, to say the least, but it is incredibly refreshing and packed with vitamins. It's the original probiotic superfood, just with what you might call a modern marketing problem. Bioarchaeologists examining the chemical signatures in ancient bones still debate the extent to which your diet was supplemented. On your seasonal migrations, you certainly gather what the land offers. Wild onions and garlic to flavor your stews, tart berries in the autumn, and edible roots dug from the riverbanks. If you pass near a sedentary farming village, you might trade a fine horse for sacks of millet or wheat, a rare luxury. But these are grace notes, not the melody. The song of your survival is played on the string of meat and milk, and in the leanest of times, on a long raid or scout mission when the dried meat has run out, you turn to the most intimate and vital source of nourishment available. You turn to the living blood of your horse. It is a technique of last resort, a sacred act of survival between a warrior and their mount. You calm your horse, speaking to it in low tones, and with a small, sharp knife, you make a quick, shallow incision in a vein on its neck. You collect a bowlful of the warm, dark, steaming blood. The wound on the horse is then immediately sealed with a paste of clay or a pinch of dung, and it heals quickly. You drink the blood fresh, its taste rich and metallic. It is a potent, life-giving draught, full of protein, iron, and salt, and it can sustain you for days without having to kill the precious animal that is your key to getting home. It is the ultimate expression of the bond you share. Your horse carries you, and in your moment of greatest need, it feeds you. Your gods are not distant, abstract beings who live in ornate, immovable buildings. You have never seen a temple made of stone. Why would a god want to be tied to one patch of earth? Your gods are like you, nomadic, powerful, and ever-present in the vast, wild world you inhabit. Their temple is the endless blue dome of the sky by day, and the star-dusted velvet of the sky by night. They are not deities who demand complex theology or lengthy written sermons. Their truths are written in the flight of an eagle, the rumble of a summer thunderstorm, and the direction of the wind. Your spiritual life is woven into the fabric of your daily existence. You see divinity in the great life-giving sun, who banishes the cold darkness each morning, and whose warmth makes the grass grow. You feel it in the earth, the patient, solid mother beneath your horse's hooves from whom all life springs. Scholars continue to debate the exact nature of your pantheon and its intricate connections to the great Proto-Indo-Iranian faiths to the south, but for you it is simple. You honor the spirit of the great river that gives your herds water, you leave a small offering for the spirit of the wolf whose territory you must cross, and you whisper a prayer to the Sky Father for good fortune. Of all the elemental forces, however, one holds a special, central place in your life. Fire. The hearth fire in your yurt is more than just a source of heat and light. It is a living entity, the heart of your home, a direct link to the divine. It is your people's most important friend. It cooks your food, hardens the tips of your spears, and keeps the very real wolves of the night at bay. You are taught from infancy to treat it with absolute respect. Nothing unclean is ever thrown into it. No one ever points a weapon at it. Before every meal, the first and best morsel of food and a spoonful of rich fat are offered to the flames with a murmured blessing. You feed the fire, and in return, it protects you. You are always careful not to anger it, because an angry fire god is a truly terrible roommate. While these daily acts of reverence form the quiet rhythm of your faith, there are times for grand, communal ceremony. The most important of these is the annual ritual in honor of your great god of war. He has no face, no human form in your stories. He is pure, unbridled ferocity, the embodiment of the warrior spirit, and he is worshipped not as a statue, but as a sword. On a high place overlooking the steppe, your clan works together to build a colossal altar, not of stone, but of brushwood and logs, a massive flat-topped pyre the size of a dozen yurts. At the very top, driven deep into the wood, stands a single, ancient iron sword. Its hilt is weathered, its blade pitted with age. This is the god, The entire clan gathers. The air grows thick with anticipation. The shaman, the intermediary between the world of spirits and the world of people, begins the ceremony. This figure is not necessarily the strongest warrior, but someone who walks between worlds. Sometimes these are the enarees, men who adopt the dress and high-pitched voices of women, figures of a third gender, whose spiritual power is believed to be a divine gift. They lead the chanting, their voices rising and falling in a hypnotic rhythm. The ceremony isn't a quiet, contemplative affair. It's loud, bloody, and very to the point. Your war god appreciates a clear, unambiguous message. One by one, prize livestock, sheep, cattle, and most importantly, horses, are led to the altar and sacrificed. Their blood is collected and used to anoint the iron sword, painting it a glistening dark crimson. It is a stark and brutal transaction. You are offering the god the most valuable things you possess, the blood and life of your herd, in exchange for his continued favor in battle. You watch, your heart pounding in time with the drums. You don't feel fear, but a profound sense of connection, of rightness. This ritual reaffirms your place in the universe. It is an acknowledgement that life is sustained by death, that to be a successful predator, you must honor the greatest predator of all. The ceremony ends with a great feast, the meat of the sacrificed animals cooked on massive fires, ensuring the god's gift is shared among his people. This is the public face of your faith. Your private beliefs are quieter. It's the small, smooth river stone you carry in a pouch for luck. It's the way you touch the anthropomorphic hilt of your dagger, whispering to the ancestor spirit there before a raid. It's the deep, silent breath you take as you watch the sun rise, feeling its power on your face, a daily renewal of the world and of your own spirit. As you lie on your back on a clear night looking up at the uncountable stars, you do not feel small or lost. You feel seen. The wind, the sky, the fire, the sword, these are your gods, and they are always with you. The stories of your people, your gods, and your ancestors are not just carried in the wind or whispered around the fire. They are written in a far more intimate and permanent medium, the human skin. From your earliest memories, you have seen the living art that adorns the bodies of your elders. Intricate dark blue-green lines that swirl and coil into the forms of fantastic beasts and powerful symbols, covering their arms, legs, and backs. A tattoo is not a whim or a decoration. It is a declaration. It is a map of a person's life, a badge of their lineage, and a permanent, powerful amulet against the dangers of the world. This isn't a case of deciding to get a tattoo of a song lyric on your wrist because you were feeling philosophical one afternoon. Every line, every swirl, has a weight and a story. Now, having proven yourself in battle and taken your place among the warriors, it is time for you to bear the marks of your status. It is another of your culture's rites of passage that a modern observer might find deeply intimidating. There is no anesthetic, no sterile studio. There is only a needle, a pot of ink, and your own will to endure the pain. You go to the yurt of a woman renowned for her skill with the needle. She is part artist, part shaman, and her own skin is a testament to her lifelong mastery of the craft. Her hands are steady, and her eyes seem to see not just your skin but the spirit beneath it. You are choosing her to permanently alter your body, to inscribe a piece of your soul onto your flesh. You choose very, very carefully. She lays out her tools on a clean piece of leather. There is a set of fine, sharp needles carved from the wing bones of an eagle, their points honed to perfection. There is a small, shallow bowl containing a thick, dark pigment, a mixture of soot scraped from the inside of a ritual cauldron, ground into a fine powder, and mixed with a binder of plant sap. The artist begins by tracing the intended design onto your shoulder with a piece of charcoal. You have chosen the form of a griffin, the mythical creature with the body of a lion, and the head and wings of an eagle, a powerful guardian of the border between the sky and the earth. Then, the process begins. You clench your jaw, focusing on your breathing, as she dips the bone needle into the inky paste and begins to prick the design into your skin. It is not a single searing pain, but 1,000 tiny sharp stings, delivered in a steady hypnotic rhythm. Sting, sting, sting. The needle dances along the charcoal lines, depositing the soot deep into the dermis. You focus on the artist's low, humming chant, a song to soothe the pain and awaken the spirit of the griffin. You must not cry out or pull away. To endure the pain with stoicism is as much a part of the ritual as the tattoo itself. Small beads of blood well up and mix with the dark ink, which she gently wipes away with a damp cloth. The process takes hours, a long, meditative trial by fire. The design she creates is not a placid, realistic portrait of an animal. It is a creature of pure energy, rendered in the iconic animal style of the steppe. The griffin's body is a vortex of coiled muscle. Its beak is exaggerated and cruel. Its eye a simple, powerful circle. The limbs and wings are formed from other, smaller animal heads, a design element that makes the creature seem to writhe with a life of its own. This is the art of your people, discovered in the frozen tombs of your Scythian ancestors at places like Pazyryk, preserved for millennia in ice. It is an art of dynamic, swirling motion, perfectly suited to a people who are never still. As the artist works, you reflect on the tattoo's meaning. The griffin will be your guardian, its spiritual power now physically part of you. Anthropologists and art historians of the distant future will debate the precise grammar of this art form, puzzling over whether a certain beast denoted a specific clan, or if the placement of a tattoo on the body had a universal meaning. For you, the language is more personal, yet universally understood within your tribe. You know the stag on your father's calf represents his swiftness and his lineage, and the coiled predator on your chieftain's back symbolizes his ferocious power. Your griffin marks you as a warrior, protected by the spirits of both earth and sky. When the last needle prick is done, your shoulder is a swollen, tender mass of bruised flesh, but through the blood and soreness, the dark lines of the griffin are sharp and clear. The artist anoints it with a soothing herbal balm. Over the next few weeks, it will heal, the scabs will fall away, and the design will settle into your skin as a permanent, blue-green shadow. It will be the first of many. With each great achievement, a victorious raid, the birth of a child, a spiritual journey, another image will be added. Your skin will become your autobiography, a living tapestry that tells the story of your life. For now, you simply feel the deep, satisfying throb of your new mark. The pain is already a memory, but the power you feel is real and forever. Life on the steppe is a cycle of movement, a relentless rhythm of seasons, migrations, and generations. You are born in a yurt, you live on horseback, and you know that you will not die in a bed in a stone house. Death is as much a part of your world as the wind and the grass. It is not hidden away or spoken of in whispers. It is a journey, a final migration, and it demands a send-off as grand and as rooted in the earth as the life that preceded it. This is a lesson you learn firsthand when the old chieftain, a man who led your clan for 40 seasons, finally breathes his last. The mourning is not a quiet, somber affair. It is a storm of performative grief, a loud and public testament to the clan's loss. The chieftain's closest relatives shave their heads, score their own skin with their daggers, and wail with an abandon that is both terrifying and deeply moving. Feasts are held, stories of the chieftain's great deeds are told and retold, and a profound sense of communal loss settles over the camp. His life was spent in constant motion, but his death will be marked by a monument of absolute permanence. For a people who never put down roots, you put a surprising amount of effort into your permanent residences. The real estate is exclusive, and the neighbors are guaranteed to be quiet. A suitable place is chosen for his final home, a high windswept ridge with a commanding view of the vast plains where his herds grazed. A kurgan, a burial mound, will be raised here, a new man-made mountain on the flat expanse of the steppe. The entire clan is mobilized for the task. A great rectangular pit, a dozen meters deep, is dug into the hard, dry earth by an army of laborers. At the bottom of this pit, a tomb chamber is meticulously constructed from thick pine logs, hauled from the nearest river valley. It is built like a small, sturdy cabin, a final subterranean yurt for the chieftain's long sleep. The chieftain's body is prepared for its journey. It is dressed in his finest garments, a silk tunic acquired through trade, leather trousers, and a coat adorned with hundreds of small stamped gold plaques. His scale armor is polished, his longsword is laid by his side, and the anthropomorphic dagger is placed in his hand. You watch as the burial chamber is filled with all the necessities for the afterlife. It's essential to pack well for this final trip. You'll want your best clothes, your favorite cauldron, a good supply of dried meat, and enough gold to make a strong first impression on the gods. It is the ultimate status-conscious travel preparation. Then comes the most solemn part of the ceremony. The chieftain's 16 favorite horses, the pride of his herd, are led down a ramp into the pit. They are bridled and saddled with their most ornate tack, ready for one last ride. They are killed with a swift, merciful blow and arranged carefully in rows outside the log chamber. They will carry their master in the next world as they did in this one. Alongside them are placed the bodies of a cupbearer, a cook, and a loyal bodyguard. Archaeologists of a later age will debate the exact meaning of these sacrificed individuals. Were they unwilling victims, or honored retainers who chose to follow their lord into eternity? From your perspective, it is their final and greatest act of loyalty, an assurance that their chieftain will not be alone. Once the chamber is filled and the sacrifices are made, the log roof is lowered into place. The great pit is slowly filled with earth, burying the tomb and its silent occupants. Now, the real work begins. For weeks, every member of the clan, from the smallest child to the oldest elder, participates in raising the mound. You carry basket after basket of earth and stone, dumping it on the grave, slowly building the great pyramid of soil. The kurgan rises, a testament to the chieftain's power and the collective strength of his people. When the last basket of earth has been laid and the new hill stands complete against the sky, the final ritual begins, the purification. Small three-poled tents of felt are erected near the tomb. In the center of each, a bronze cauldron is filled with red-hot stones. You and several other warriors, having been in contact with the dead, crawl inside. The shaman passes a pouch through the flap. It is filled with hemp seeds. You take a handful and throw them onto the hot stones. A thick, acrid, and strangely sweet-smelling vapor immediately fills the tiny tent. You inhale deeply. The smoke burns your lungs and makes your eyes water, but then a profound sense of release, of euphoria, washes over you. The grief and grimness of the burial give way to a cathartic howling laughter. It's a ritual of spiritual cleansing, and you have to admit, a remarkably effective coping mechanism. The gods of the afterlife, it seems, appreciate a good hotbox session. As you stumble out into the clean, cold air, you look back at the kurgan, a fresh scar on the earth that will soon be healed by grass. It is a tomb with a view, a final, unmoving anchor for a life of endless motion. The world is larger than the endless horizon of grass and sky that you know. Your clan is powerful, but you are not the only people under the sun. To the east are other nomadic tribes, distant cousins and bitter rivals. To the north lie the great dark forests, and to the south, where the steppe finally gives way to a great body of water so vast you cannot see the other side, live the stone house people. The Greeks. They are traders, not warriors in your sense of the word, and once every few years your clan undertakes the long journey to their settlements to exchange the wealth of the steppe for the strange, beautiful things they make. The journey south is a journey between worlds. The character of the land changes. The grass becomes thinner, interrupted by plots of tilled earth where settled farmers grow grain. The air begins to carry a sharp, salty tang you've never smelled before. And then you see it. The colony of Olbia. To you, it is a bewildering sight. A chaotic jumble of square, permanent structures made of stone and wood, pressed together behind a defensive wall. It seems cramped, static, and fragile. The familiar, comforting sense of the herd and the open plain are replaced by the stink of the harbor, of too many people living too close together and the alien smell of the sea. You and your fellow warriors ride into their market square and the world seems to stop. The Greeks, with their pale skin and dark curly hair, stare at you with a mixture of fear, fascination, and avarice. They are a strange sight to you as well. They move awkwardly on the ground and their clothes are bizarre. You stare at their draped, tunic-like garments, which seem impractical for riding or for any kind of real work. It looks to you as though they have all decided to leave the house wearing very elaborate bedsheets. They, in turn, gawk at your attire. You are dressed in your finest trading gear, a tunic of wool dyed a brilliant crimson, and snug-fitting trousers decorated with intricate embroidered patterns of gold thread. Your boots are soft leather, and your weapons are visible and well kept. You are a splash of dangerous nomadic color in their drab, dusty town. The trading is a tense, formal affair, conducted through translators who know a smattering of both languages. Your chieftain offers what you have brought: perfect, unblemished furs from the northern forests, clay jars of rich, dark honey, and a handful of captives from a recent raid, their eyes downcast. In return, you bargain for their goods. They bring out large two-handled clay jars, amphorae, filled with dark, sweet wine. It's a pleasant change of pace from kumis, though you find their custom of mixing it with water to be a baffling act of disrespect to a perfectly good drink. You also trade for their pottery, bowls and cups painted with intricate scenes of their own myths, and for finely crafted bronze mirrors and fibulae to fasten your cloaks. Most of the Greeks are merchants, their eyes calculating the value of every fur. But you notice one man who stands apart from the rest. He is not dressed as a trader or a soldier. He just watches, his gaze intense and unnervingly focused, especially on you and the other women in your party. He sees you conferring with your chieftain, your hand resting casually on the hilt of your sword. He sees you dismount and expertly check your horse's leg. He watches as you laugh, a loud, open-throated laugh utterly devoid of the demure deference he is used to. You see him making marks on a small tablet of wax. He's apparently a historian, which seems to be a job that involves writing down wildly inaccurate things you don't understand about people you've only just met. In his eyes, you can see the birth of a legend. The debate over the historicity of the Amazons is one of the oldest in the classical world, a puzzle for scholars for millennia. You right now are the answer to that puzzle. This man, this Herodotus or one of his disciples, comes from a world where women are confined to the home, their lives lived in shadow and silence. To him, you are an impossibility. He does not see a woman from a different culture with different social norms. He sees the world turned upside down. He sees a race of women who ride, who fight, who rule. He will take this astonishing vision back to his own people, and in the telling and retelling, the story will grow. The nuances will be stripped away. The fact that you fight alongside your men, not instead of them, will be forgotten. Your husbands, your sons, your families, all will be edited out of the story in favor of a much more sensational tale of a tribe of fierce, man-hating warrior queens who cut off one breast to better draw a bow. You know nothing of this, of course. You just see a strange little man who seems more interested in staring than in trading. As your business concludes, you mount your horse, your saddlebags now weighted with a beautiful painted vase and a skin of watered-down wine. You have what you came for, but you have unknowingly left a piece of yourself behind. A story, a myth, a distorted reflection of your reality that will be carved in stone, written on scrolls, and told for the next 2,000 years. You ride back north, toward the familiar green horizon of the steppe, leaving the seed of the Amazon legend to take root in the fertile soil of Greek imagination. You are a warrior of renown, your name known and respected among your own clan and whispered with a touch of fear among your rivals. Your tattoos tell the story of your victories, and your skill with a bow is legendary. You are of an age to marry, but this next step in your life is not a simple matter of the heart. For a person of your standing, marriage is not a private affair. It is an instrument of statecraft. Finding a partner isn't about a chance meeting or a shared glance across a campfire. It's about complex geopolitical negotiations that often involve the future of entire herds and the security of a generation. It's significantly less romantic than the tales the Greek poets tell, but the dowry is usually much, much better. For years, a rival clan to the east has been a constant source of friction, their raiding parties clashing with yours over the best grazing lands along a disputed river valley. The cycle of low-level warfare has been costly for both sides. Now the elders have decided to try a different tactic, alliance, and you are the centerpiece of that strategy. Their chieftain has a son, a formidable warrior in his own right, and a marriage has been proposed between you two to bind your clans together, turning generations of rivalry into a powerful new alliance. You are not asked your opinion on the matter. Your duty to the clan is paramount. The negotiations take place in a neutral territory, a great gathering of the two clans. The air is thick with tension and the smell of hundreds of horses. The chieftains and elders meet in a large, open-air council, while the warriors of both sides watch each other with veiled suspicion. The talk is of grazing rights, of mutual defense pacts, and most importantly, of the bride price. This is the custom. A gift of wealth, almost always in the form of livestock, is given by the groom's family to the brides. It is not a purchase, but a formal recognition of your value. It compensates your family for the loss of a powerful warrior and solidifies the immense honor of the new connection. Your value isn't measured in poetic compliments, but in horses. It's a surprisingly direct and effective system. He thinks I'm skilled, but does he think I'm 50 prime mares and a proven stud bull skilled? You finally meet your intended. He is tall for a man of the steppe, his face weathered and scarred, his arms covered in the same kind of swirling blue-green tattoos as your own. You do not exchange shy pleasantries. Instead, you size each other up with the frank, appraising eyes of fellow professionals. You note the quality of his horse, the fine craftsmanship of his sword, the confident way he holds himself. He in turn looks at you not as a prize to be won, but as a potential ally or a dangerous liability. He sees the calluses on your hands, the easy way you sit your saddle, the griffin tattoo on your shoulder. It is an interview for the most important partnership of your life. This is the reality that so confuses outsiders and fuels the arguments of future historians. They will argue for centuries whether your society was truly matriarchal, with women holding the ultimate authority, or if it was simply a uniquely robust form of egalitarianism. The truth, as you live it, is more complex. You will not become your husband's property. Your personal wealth, the horses and weapons you own, will remain yours. You will join his clan, but you will not be submerged by it. Your voice will be heard in his councils, and your skills as a warrior and a strategist will be utilized. A good marriage is a partnership, like a perfectly matched pair of horses pulling a war chariot. You both have to be strong, you both have to be smart, and you must learn to pull in the same direction. It also helps if one of you doesn't have a habit of unexpectedly biting the other. The wedding is a roaring 3-day festival. The bride price has been paid, the treaty is sealed, and now the two clans celebrate their newfound unity with wild abandon. There are horse races that stretch for miles across the plains, archery competitions with huge wagers of livestock, and wrestling matches that are as much about settling old scores as they are about sport. You and your new husband formalize your bond in a simple ceremony, drinking from a shared cup of kumis and exchanging daggers as a sign of your mutual trust and shared path. In the years that follow, the alliance proves to be a resounding success. You and your husband are a formidable team. His prowess in the melee is matched only by your strategic mind and your deadly accuracy with a bow. You ride into battle side by side, a terrifying duo of leadership and lethality. When he is away negotiating with other tribes, command of the clan's war parties often falls to you, and no one ever questions your authority. You are not just a chieftain's wife. You are a chieftain in your own right. You have borne children, raised them to be strong, and you now stand as a powerful matriarch, your influence shaping the destiny of two united peoples. You are the living proof that power, in your world, is not a matter of gender, but of strength, wisdom, and the will to lead. To live the life of a warrior is to accept that your body is not a sacred, untouched vessel. It is a tool, a weapon, and a canvas upon which the story of your life will be written in the ink of scar tissue. Now, as a seasoned leader and a veteran of countless battles, your skin is a living record of your past. There is the long silvery line along your forearm where a glancing sword blow was stitched together with sinew. There is the puckered, angry divot on your thigh where you dug out a bronze arrowhead yourself. There are the faint crisscross marks on your knuckles from 1,000 encounters with bowstrings and blades. Scars are the steps equivalent of a resume. A warrior with smooth, unblemished skin is a warrior who has never been tested. Injury is an inevitability, and every warrior must also be a healer of sorts. Your people's approach to medicine is brutally straightforward. If it's bleeding, stop it. If it's broken, realign it. If it's festering, burn it. There are no complex theories of humors or lengthy diagnostic charts. There is only a deep pragmatic understanding of the body, and an intimate knowledge of the pharmacy that grows wild across the plains. You carry a small leather pouch on your belt, filled not with gold but with things far more valuable: dried herbs, a lump of pine resin, and a sharp obsidian flake. You have used these tools many times. You remember a young warrior in your last raid, his leg laid open by a spear thrust, the blood pumping out in a terrifying rhythm. While others provided covering fire, you knelt by his side. You pulled a handful of dried, feathery leaves from your pouch. Yarrow, the plant the Romans will one day call herba militaris for its constant presence on the battlefield. You stuffed a wad of it into your mouth, chewing it into a rough green poultice, and then packed the astringent mash deep into his wound. The bleeding slowed, then stopped. It is a skill as vital as archery, passed down from warrior to warrior. For wounds too grievous to be treated in the heat of battle, the injured are brought to the healer's yurt. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of drying herbs that hang in bundles from the roof poles. There are pots of animal fat salves, bowls of mineral pigments, and an array of fearsome-looking tools: bronze probes, flint knives sharper than steel, and fine needles carved from bone. The healer, an old woman whose own scars are the oldest in the clan, wastes no time on sympathy. A deep cut will be washed with sour kumis, the alcohol a weak but effective antiseptic, before being expertly stitched shut with a strand of horse sinew. A broken arm is set with a quick, brutal jerk that makes the patient scream, a procedure that usually involves two strong assistants pulling in opposite directions, while you bite down hard on a leather strap and try to focus on a happier time. It is a system high on effectiveness, if a bit lacking in gentle bedside manner. Sometimes the injuries are beyond the power of herbs and stitches. You once witnessed the most dramatic and dangerous procedure in the healer's arsenal: the opening of the skull. A warrior had been struck on the head with a battle mace. He was not killed, but a creeping lethargy had taken him, and one side of his body had gone limp. The healer declared that a malicious spirit, or perhaps a clot of blood, was trapped in his head and must be released. The man was given a powerful dose of a numbing root to chew, and his head was shaved. Then, with a prayer to the sky gods, the healer took a sharpened flint drill and began to carefully, painstakingly, scrape away a circle of bone from his skull. The exact purpose of this trepanation is a subject of intense scholarly debate for future academics. Was it a desperate neurosurgical attempt to relieve intracranial pressure, or a purely shamanistic ritual? For you, watching the healer in her blood-spattered trance, the line between medicine and magic is non-existent. She is fighting for the man's life with every tool she has, physical and spiritual. Incredibly, after a piece of bone was lifted out, the man stirred and weeks later recovered. To be wounded is not to be weak. The clan rallies around its injured. They are given the best food, their stories are listened to, and their duties are taken over by others until they can heal. Even those with permanent injuries, a limp, a missing eye, a weakened arm, are still respected. Their scars prove they have paid a price for the clan's prosperity. They become elders, strategists, teachers for the next generation. Their bodies may be broken, but their spirit and their experience are invaluable. You look down at your own hands, at the network of faded white lines that cross your knuckles and wrists. They are a map of your journey, a testament to your survival. Each mark is a story, a lesson learned, a death narrowly avoided. They are the price of living a fierce and unforgiving life. The world is changing. For generations, the rhythm of your life has been dictated by the seasons and by the familiar dance of rivalry and alliance with other steppe peoples. You know their tactics, you understand their motivations, you speak a variant of their language. But now new stories are carried on the wind, tales from the south of a new power, an empire of stone and iron that is steadily, relentlessly pushing its borders north. They are the Eagle people, the Romans, and they are unlike any enemy you have ever known. Your first encounter is as a scout hidden on a high, grassy ridge. Below you, a river glitters in the sun, and alongside it the enemy advances. It is the most baffling and unnerving thing you have ever seen. It is not a war party, a fluid, chaotic mass of individual riders. It is a single, multi-legged creature, a serpent of polished iron and red tunics moving as one entity. A Roman legion on the march. Thousands of men move in perfect, terrifying synchronicity, their hobnailed sandals kicking up a rhythmic cloud of dust, their rectangular shields held at the exact same angle. The sun glints off their segmented armor, and the eagle standards held aloft, symbols of a power you do not yet comprehend. They march in straight lines. They make camp at a prescribed time. They seem to operate from a set of invisible rules. It's deeply impressive, but you can't help but feel that it also looks profoundly, soul-crushingly boring. A few days later, your war chief, confident in your people's proven tactics, decides to test their strength. A party of 100 riders, yourself included, sweeps down upon their marching column. Your war cry rips through the air as you begin your classic maneuver, the circling attack, loosing a storm of arrows into their flank. Against any other foe, this would cause panic, break their formation, and create openings for a charge. The Romans do not panic. On a single barked command in their harsh, guttural language, the outer ranks raise their shields, locking them together to form a wall of wood and steel. The men behind them raise their shields over their heads, creating a roof. They become a tortoise, an armored beast that simply absorbs your volley of arrows. You hear the frustrating thump, thump, thump of your arrows harmlessly striking their shields. The column doesn't even stop moving. It just marches on, an inexorable, indifferent machine. You shadow them, perplexed and angry. That evening, you watch them make camp. To your astonishment, they don't simply tether their horses and light fires. They build a fortress. In a matter of hours, an army of engineers and laborers transforms a patch of open ground. A perfect rectangular ditch is dug. The excavated earth is used to create a rampart, which is then topped with a palisade of sharpened stakes. They build gates and watchtowers. They love to build walls. If they stop for more than a night, they build a fort. You prefer a home you can dismantle in an hour. They prefer one that comes with its own moat and a list of defensive regulations. This methodical preparation should have been a warning. Your chieftain, his pride stung by the failure of the initial attack, orders a full-scale dawn raid, intending to smash through their lines with the irresistible force of a cavalry charge. As the sun rises, you are part of that charge, a thunderous wave of horse and warrior. But as you close the distance, a strange thing happens. Horses at the front of the charge begin to scream and stumble, their legs buckling, riders pitching forward into the dust. Your own horse shies violently. You look down and see the cause. The ground is littered with thousands of small, vicious iron objects. 4-pronged spikes, called caltrops, scattered so that one sharp point is always facing up. It's a nasty little piece of work, the ancient equivalent of a minefield made of nails. It isn't a brave or glorious weapon, but it is brutally effective. And you are learning that the Romans are not primarily concerned with glory. They are concerned with winning. The charge dissolves into chaos and carnage. The attack is a bloody failure. You retreat, dragging your lamed horses and wounded warriors with you, leaving a dozen of your kin dead on the field. You have learned a hard lesson. This is not a rival tribe you can intimidate and chase away. This is an empire. Historians of the future will debate the long-term strategic goals of Rome's Danubian frontier policy. Was it meant to be a static, defensive line, or a staging ground for the conquest of the steppes? You do not know their grand strategy. You only see its immediate, terrifying consequence, a patient, disciplined, and technologically methodical power that does not play by your rules. The shadow of the eagle has fallen across your world, and as you gaze south towards a horizon now marred by the smoke of a permanent Roman watchtower, you know with chilling certainty that the old ways are no longer enough. The disastrous clash with the Roman legion sends a shockwave through the clans. The old ways, the hit-and-run tactics of the horse archer that have dominated the steppe for centuries, are no longer enough. Your arrows, which once sowed terror and chaos, now break harmlessly against their disciplined shield walls. Your lightning charges are wrecked by their methodical, engineered defenses. Your traditional methods are like throwing water against a stone fortress. It is a moment of crisis and of evolution. It's time for an upgrade. A very, very heavy upgrade. Great councils are held. Chieftains from a dozen clans gather, the smoke of their fires mingling under the wide sky. The stories of the Roman encounter are told and retold, analyzed with the cold, practical eye of a people whose existence depends on martial superiority. There is considerable debate among future historians whether the tactical shift you are about to undertake was a direct response to Roman heavy infantry, an imitation of the heavily armored Parthian cavalry to the east, or simply the next logical step in your own warrior traditions. For you, the answer is simple. The Eagle people have changed the rules of the game. Now, you will change them again. The transformation begins in the forges and the armorer's yurts. The scale armor you once wore, a simple jerkin covering your torso, is no longer sufficient. Now you are fitted for a suit of iron that covers you from neck to ankle. Greaves of overlapping scales protect your shins, and articulated vambraces cover your arms. But the most radical and important change is not for you, but for your mount. For the first time, your horse is to be armored as heavily as you are. A great heavy trapper, a blanket of leather covered in thousands of bronze or iron scales, is designed to cover your war horse from its poll to its fetlocks, with openings for the eyes, ears, and nostrils. Your horse is now wearing more metal than an entire family of your enemies might own. He is not particularly thrilled with the extra weight and the restricted movement, but you suspect the dramatic reduction in the odds of being impaled on a Roman spear is a welcome trade-off. Your own gear is upgraded as well. You are given a new helmet, a fearsome piece of iron that will become the signature of your new warrior class. It is a tall, conical helmet, with a prominent central ridge from which a curtain of mail or scales hangs to protect your neck. Attached to the front is a full iron face mask, hammered into a stylized, emotionless visage, with only narrow slits for your eyes and small holes for you to breathe. To put it on is to enter a claustrophobic, muffled world. Your peripheral vision is gone, and the sound of your own breathing is a loud, rasping echo in your ears. But looking out, you know that your enemy sees not a human face, but the terrifying, implacable mask of a war god. Finally, you are given your new primary weapon. Your composite bow is still with you, but it is now relegated to a secondary role. Your new partner is the Kontos. It is a monstrous spear, a lance nearly 5 meters long made from a thick shaft of ash or cornel wood, and tipped with a heavy leaf-shaped iron spearhead. It is far too long and heavy to be wielded one-handed. It demands both of your hands, a firm grip, and the full committed momentum of your charging horse to be effective. The entire philosophy of your attack has changed. The goal is no longer to harass, circle, and weaken. The goal is to punch a clean, brutal hole straight through the enemy's battle line. You are less like a pack of wolves now, and more like a freight train made of angry, iron-plated, pointy people. The time comes to test this new doctrine. You meet the Romans again, this time on a wide, flat plain that offers no place for them to hide or build fortifications. They form their familiar, implacable line of shields and spears. But this time, you do not circle. You and 100 other riders, all clad head to toe in iron, form a great thundering wedge. You are the tip of the spear. You couch the heavy Kontos under your arm, holding it with both hands, its point aimed at the heart of their formation. The charge begins. It is a slow, ponderous trot at first, the ground shaking under the weight of so much armored horseflesh. Then a canter and then a full earth-shattering gallop. The sound is a deafening avalanche of drumming hooves and clattering iron. The moment of impact is a physical shock that rattles your teeth. Your lance, backed by a half-ton of armored horse, strikes a Roman shield. The shield splinters into 1,000 pieces. The spear punches through the man's armor, and the sheer unstoppable momentum carries you deep into their formation. The Roman line, for so long an unbreakable wall, shatters. You see something in their eyes you have never seen before. Not calm discipline, but pure, unadulterated shock. They are being broken, trampled, and scattered. You have become something new, something terrifying. You are the first knight. You are a cataphract, a living juggernaut of iron and rage. And you have just taught the lords of the world a new lesson in fear. The war with the Roman Empire is a long, grinding affair of bloody seasons. Your cataphracts are a fearsome weapon, a thunderous charge of iron that can shatter a legion's line. But the Romans are an ocean. You can win a battle, you can win 10 battles, but they just keep coming. They have endless reserves of men and resources, and a patient, stubborn will that is as formidable as any army. After years of brutal warfare along the Danube frontier, under a philosopher emperor named Marcus Aurelius. Your people are finally fought to a standstill. Exhausted, bled of warriors, and with the threat of famine looming, your chieftains sue for peace. The Romans, you learn, have a peculiar way of making peace. It mostly involves you admitting defeat, giving them everything they want and promising to be good. Their treaties are full of fine print, and all of it is in their favor. The terms of the treaty are a dagger to the heart of your clan. You must cede territory. You must pay a huge tribute in grain and cattle, but the cruelest blow is the demand for warriors. 8,000 of your finest cataphracts are to be conscripted into the Roman army as auxiliaries, forced to fight for the very empire that has broken you. It is a shrewd and devastating move by the Romans, simultaneously weakening your military power and strengthening their own with the world's best heavy cavalry. The day of the conscription is one of the darkest in your memory. The Roman legates stand with their scribes, impassively calling out the names. Your husband is chosen. Your 2 brothers are chosen. Your cousins and your childhood friends. An entire generation of your clan's strength is being surgically excised. You watch as the men, their faces grim stone masks, gather their armor and their horses. There are no tears. You are not a people given to public displays of grief, but the silence is heavier and more painful than any wail. You are not a prisoner, but you are now living in a prison of Roman design, your family torn apart, your people's future held hostage. Of the 8,000, 5,500 are destined for the most distant, miserable posting in the entire Roman Empire, a cold, misty island on the far side of the world called Britannia. The stories of their journey filter back to you over the years, fragmented tales of a seemingly endless march. You imagine your husband, a man who has never known a world beyond the open steppe, being herded across the stone roads of the empire. You are marched across the entire known world, one of the stories says. You see more cities, more bridges, more aqueducts than you ever knew existed. The food gets progressively worse, and no one, absolutely no one, has ever heard of Cumis. Their destination is the northern frontier of that remote province, a place of constant, drizzling rain, low-hanging fog, and rolling green hills that feel suffocating to a person raised under an endless sky. You arrive in a place called Britannia. A letter from a kinsman reads, smuggled back by a trader. It has 2 seasons, the rainy season and the season where it is about to rain. The grass is wet and heavy, not the fine, dry feather grass of home. The sun is a pale, watery stranger. You begin to suspect that you will never feel truly warm or dry again. The cultural shock is profound and soul-crushing. Their new duty is to patrol a massive stone wall that cuts across the island, a monument to Roman engineering and paranoia, built to keep the savage painted people of the north at bay. They are still Sarmatian cataphracts, clad in their scale armor and wielding the contos, but now a Roman military cloak is fastened at their shoulder, and their dragon-headed Draco standard flies next to the Roman eagle. They are an army in exile, their peerless skills now in service to their conquerors, their lives spent defending a cold, wet wall at the edge of the world. And here, in this remote land, a strange thing begins to happen. This historical event, the transplantation of 5,500 Sarmatian heavy cavalrymen to Britain, forms the basis for a fascinating scholarly theory. The theory suggests that the culture, the myths, and the very image of these warriors, these ironclad knights on their armored horses, who worshipped a god in the form of a sword planted in the earth, did not simply vanish. Instead, their stories bled into the local Celtic folklore. Over the centuries, as the Roman Empire crumbled and history faded into legend, the memory of these steppe warriors on their great horses would be transformed, becoming the seed from which the myth of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table would one day grow. But you know nothing of these future legends. You are an old woman now, and the news from Britain is rare. You hear that after their 25 years of service, the survivors were not sent home, but were settled as veterans in a town called Ribchester. They have taken local wives, and their children speak a strange tongue. In the green fields of that wet island, they have even raised a few small kurgans for their dead, lonely, defiant echoes of the steppe, a final testament to a home they will never see again. The years after the Great Roman War are a time of weary rebuilding. Your people, the Sarmatians, are diminished, scarred and forever changed by the conflict and the treaty that followed. A fragile, resentful peace settles along the Danube frontier. You have adapted, becoming masters of the cataphract charge, and a wary respect now exists between you and the legions in their stone forts. Life goes on. The herds grow, children are born, and the old rhythms of the steppe begin to reassert themselves. But the world is a much larger place than the border between your lands and Rome's. A storm is gathering in the vast, unknown heart of the continent to the east, a human hurricane that will make your wars with Rome feel like a polite disagreement. The first tremors are the arrival of the Goths. They come down from the north, a restless, migrating nation of fierce warriors who fight on foot with heavy spears and axes as well as on horseback. They are not like you. They seek not just grazing lands but a permanent home. And they see it in the rich Black Sea plains that have long been your domain. Your initial clashes with them are savage and inconclusive. Their infantry squares are a difficult challenge for your cataphracts, and their sheer numbers are alarming. The steppe, which once felt as infinite as the sky, suddenly feels crowded. You've spent a century dealing with the Romans on your southern border, and now a whole new set of hostile neighbors has moved in from the east. The property values of your ancestral grazing lands are, to put it mildly, plummeting. But the Goths, for all their ferocity, are themselves fleeing from a greater terror. Whispers and then panicked reports begin to filter through the camps, stories brought by terrified refugees and the few scouts who have ridden far to the east and returned. They speak of a new people, a whirlwind of destruction that has erupted out of the depths of Asia. They are called the Huns. The precise origins of the Huns and the reasons for their sudden, violent expansion are still fiercely debated by historians of the future. To you, they are a nation of ghosts, a nameless dread. The stories say they are short, bow-legged men who are so at home on their ugly, shaggy ponies that they live their entire lives in the saddle. They say their faces are so scarred and alien they look more like beasts than men. It all sounds like the kind of exaggerated propaganda you'd invent to scare children, but a cold knot of fear in your gut tells you it might even be an understatement. Then the storm breaks. The Hunnic horde crashes into the Gothic kingdoms, utterly shattering them. The Goths, who seemed an existential threat only a season ago, are now a broken people, fleeing in a desperate mass towards the Roman border, begging for sanctuary. The Huns are now your direct neighbors, and the steppe will never be the same. Your first encounter with them is not a battle. It is a nightmare. You expect a battle line, a charge, something you can understand and counter. Instead, you face a swirling, chaotic swarm. They are all light cavalry, unarmored and impossibly fast. They refuse to meet your cataphract charge head-on. Instead, they flow around you like water around a rock, a shrieking, whooping cloud of riders. And before you see them, you hear them. They carry great curved horns, and the sound they produce is a deep, terrifying, baying moan that seems to come from the throat of some primordial beast. The sound unnerves your horse and chills your own blood, a sonic weapon that attacks your courage before the first arrow is loosed. Their tactics are the perfect antidote to your heavy power. Your ironclad warriors are too slow, too ponderous to engage them. The Huns are a cloud of gnats, stinging and moving, never settling. They are masters of the feigned retreat, drawing your powerful but unwieldy units out of formation, then turning to pepper you with a relentless rain of arrows from their powerful reflex bows. The old rules of engagement, the warrior's code of the charge and the melee, seem to be entirely optional for these newcomers. It's a chaotic, brutal free-for-all, and you are forced to confront a humbling new reality. You are no longer the most dangerous predator on the plains. Your power, the very identity you have built as the armored knights of the steppe, is broken against this new, fluid way of war. Clan after clan is defeated, scattered, or absorbed. Some Sarmatian warriors, their own chieftains slain, are forced to ride under Hunnic banners, their lances now serving a new, terrifying master. Your own clan is shattered in a disastrous battle. There is no formal surrender, no treaty. There is only flight. You join a long, desperate column of refugees, driving your panicked herds westward, ever westward. You are no longer a proud nation of warriors. You are a people unmoored, fleeing a firestorm that is consuming your entire world. The horizon ahead is one of uncertainty and exile, and the horizon behind you is filled with the smoke of your burning yurts. The flight westward is a long, desperate blur of hunger, fear, and exhaustion. Your world, which was once defined by the predictable rhythms of the seasons, has been shattered into a chaotic scramble for survival. The Hunnic storm has broken your people, scattering the clans like leaves in a gale. Your small, traumatized band of survivors is no longer a proud, independent clan, but a group of refugees searching for a safe harbor in a world that has been turned upside down. Safety comes in the form of an unlikely and deeply ironic alliance. You fall in with a massive, migrating column of Goths, the very same people you were fighting for control of the plains just a few seasons ago. But the arrival of the Huns has erased all old rivalries. The enemy of your enemy, you quickly learn, makes for a nervous but necessary friend, especially when the new enemy is a force of nature that seems to live on destruction. You and your remaining cataphracts become a valued cavalry contingent in their great migratory horde, your lances and armor now protecting the flanks of the Gothic wagon train. You are no longer a nomad of the steppe. You are a participant in the great unraveling of the Roman Empire. You cross the frozen Danube, not as a raider, but as part of an invading army. You fight against Roman legions, and you fight alongside them as temporary allies or foederati. The old certainties are gone, replaced by a bewildering series of temporary alliances, betrayals, and brutal wars. Eventually, after years of wandering and fighting, your small Sarmatian contingent, now subsumed into a larger Gothic kingdom, settles in a conquered Roman province like Pannonia or Dacia. For the first time in your life, you are no longer truly nomadic. And here, in these settled lands, the final quiet battle for your identity begins. A battle you cannot win. You find yourself living in a captured Roman villa, its crumbling mosaics telling the stories of forgotten gods. It has a solid roof that doesn't leak and floors made of tile, which is a strange novelty. But the unmoving stone walls feel like a cage, and you can't just dismantle your home and leave when the local politics become tiresome. Your great herds are gone, replaced by a few dozen animals in a fenced pasture. The horse, once the soul of your culture, is now just a useful animal. The most painful loss is the sound of your own language. It is the tongue of the steppe, a language made for shouting commands across the wind and for whispering stories in the yurt. Here it is a foreign whisper in a sea of Gothic and the vulgar Latin of the local peasants. Your children still speak it, but they are fluent in the new tongues as well. Your grandchildren, however, speak your language haltingly, their sentences littered with foreign words. They laugh at different jokes and sing different songs. You realize with a pang of cold dread that you are hearing the death of your mother tongue. Your grandchildren are growing up with a shocking and profound ignorance of the proper way to prepare kumis. They seem to prefer the local affectations of leavened bread and sour wine. It's a culinary and cultural tragedy of the highest order. Your traditions, born of the endless plains, begin to wither in this confined agricultural world. What is a ritual horse race without a horizon to race towards? How can you honor the sky god when your view is blocked by hills and forests? A new religion is taking hold here, the faith of the crucified god Christianity, and its priests tell you that your tattoos are pagan abominations and your worship of the sword is a sin. Historians and linguists of the far future will debate the exact point at which a distinct Sarmatian identity ceased to exist. Was it the day you stopped migrating? The day your children preferred the taste of wine to mare's milk? The day you buried your last elder without building a proper kurgan? For you, it is not a single event. It is a slow, quiet, daily erosion, a death by 1,000 small compromises. You are an old woman now, a living ghost. You sit in the sun, your skin a wrinkled tapestry of faded blue-green griffins and stags. And you try to teach your great-grandchildren the old stories. You tell them of the endless sea of grass, of the great cataphract charge that could break a legion, of the god who lived in a sword on a mountain of wood. They listen politely, but to them, it is just a strange fairy tale, a story from a mythical land that has no connection to their world of farms, churches, and villages. You are the last chapter in a book they do not know how to read. You close your eyes and for a moment you can almost feel the wind on your face and hear the thunder of 10,000 hooves. But it's just a memory, as thin and fragile as a dream. The world of sun and wind and grass fades to a pinpoint and then vanishes. Your children, true to the old ways as best they can remember them in this strange new land, give you a warrior's burial. They cannot build a great kurgan like the one for your old chieftain, but they find a small hill and enter you deep within it, a modest mound to mark your passing. You are dressed in your worn scale armor, your bow is laid by your side, your Akineki's dagger is placed in your hand, and your favorite horse's bridle is set by your feet. Then, the darkness and the silence close in. It is a long, deep, dreamless sleep. For 2,000 years, your slumber is disturbed only by the slow, patient work of roots and the frantic digging of groundhogs. Above you, the world turns. Languages you knew vanish and new ones arise. The Roman Empire, the great unmovable force you knew, withers and collapses. New horsemen ride the plains, Avars, Magyars, Mongols. Great wars are fought, cities are built and burned, and your small hill becomes just another anonymous feature on a landscape of forgotten memories. Then one day in the late 20th century you have new visitors. They arrive with loud, rumbling machines, strange clothes, and a shocking lack of deference for a well-made tomb. The silence is first broken by a rhythmic scraping from above. Then, a new kind of light, harsh and white, pierces the darkness of your burial chamber for the first time since the day it was sealed. You hear voices, speaking a language so alien it sounds like no human tongue you have ever heard. Gentle brushes replace the harsh scrapes, and slowly, the soil that has been your blanket for millennia is peeled back. They are incredibly meticulous, these strange, soft-handed people. They map the exact position of every one of your bones, every rusted iron scale, every bronze arrowhead. It is the most attention your skeleton has received since you were alive and actively trying to prevent it from being separated from your skin. A murmur of excitement ripples through the newcomers. A person with a clipboard makes a note. The shape of your pelvis, the gracile curve of your skull tells them you are female. This is noted as standard, expected. Then, they find the weapons. They unearth the cluster of 3-bladed arrowheads near your right hand. They carefully brush the dirt from the long, rusted blade of your iron sword. They lift your Akineki's dagger, its bronze hilt still showing the faint outline of its ancestral spirit. There is a moment of stunned silence, and then the quiet academic murmuring erupts into excited chatter. A woman, buried with a full warrior's kit. Your discovery, and the discovery of hundreds of graves just like it, sends a thunderclap through their quiet halls of learning. It prompts a complete reevaluation of the ancient texts that were once dismissed as myth and fantasy. The discovery leads to a fierce debate about the writings of the old Greeks. Was Herodotus, the man who wrote of the Amazon warrior women, simply a teller of tall tales? Or was he a better ethnographer than they had ever given him credit for, reporting a reality so foreign to his own worldview that it could only be framed as myth? Your silent, bony testimony becomes a key piece of evidence in a 2,000-year-old argument. Their investigation goes beyond mere observation. They bring the cold, unerring eye of science to bear on your remains. They examine the bones of your spine and legs and find the distinctive bowed shape and stress markers of a life spent on horseback. They analyze the muscle attachment points on your arm and shoulder bones, finding them to be exceptionally robust. Clear evidence of the strength required to draw a powerful composite bow thousands of times. They even take a tiny, careful scraping from the enamel of one of your teeth. Apparently, your dental records can tell them that your diet was almost exclusively meat and milk, and that you were not born in the place where you died. You could have told them all of that, of course, but you appreciate the effort. Your story, silent for so long, is finally being told again, translated from the language of bone and bronze into the language of data and dissertations. You are given a new, sterile name, Urzar Warrior, or Pokrovka Gravesea, and your image is recreated on a computer screen. You, the individual, are gone, but your truth, the truth of the Sarmatian warrior woman, is resurrected. The whispers from your forgotten grave, once silenced by the weight of earth and time, have now become a clear, undeniable voice that rewrites the history of your world and theirs. Your bones have told their story to the scientists, a quiet, factual tale of a life of hardship and strength. But the other part of you, your legend, has been on a much longer and stranger journey. It is a story that began the moment that wide-eyed Greek historian saw you in the market square, a story that detached from your reality and took on a life of its own. You now watch as this legend, This powerful, distorted echo of your life gallops through the centuries. The Greeks were the first to twist your truth into a shape they could understand. They couldn't comprehend a society where men and women were partners in the brutal business of survival. So they invented a story that was simpler, more shocking, and more neatly fit into their worldview of a world defined by oppositions. They took your reality, a pragmatic, egalitarian culture, and spun it into a sensational fantasy about a nation of warrior queens who rejected men entirely. It's a classic case of a story losing quite a lot in the translation, but you must admit, it has legs. The Amazons, your mythical, monstrous, and strangely beautiful doppelgangers, become a permanent fixture in their imagination, a symbol of the wild, untamable world beyond their own borders. Meanwhile, another thread of your legacy was being woven in that cold, damp island at the edge of the world. Your exiled kin in Britain, the 5500 cataphracts, lived and died in Roman service, but their memory, the image of the ironclad rider on an armored horse and their ritual of the sword in the ground, did not die with them. It seeped into the soil of the island, mingling with local folklore. Centuries later, after the Romans were long gone, a new legend would rise from that soil, a story of a great king and his fellowship of heavy cavalry. Your distant cousins, the Sarmatian knights, eventually get a legendary makeover. Their story ends up with more castles, a bit more magic, and a very famous round table. But the fundamental DNA of the cataphract charge is still there, echoing in the tales of Sir Lancelot. The power of the myth you inspired is so potent that it even crosses the great ocean that you never knew existed. 1,000 years after your death, bearded men in iron helmets from a land called Spain sail up a monstrous river in a jungle continent. When they are attacked by a band of fierce female archers, they do not see them as the local people they are. They see you, or rather, they see the Greek version of you. And so, they name that great river the Amazon. Your ghost, your legend, now haunts a part of the world you could never have imagined. And now, in the time of the people who dug up your bones, your story is everywhere, reflected in a million glittering technological shards. You watch it unfold on glowing screens in darkened rooms, stories of warrior princesses and superheroines. Your descendants on the silver screen often wear armor that is far less practical than your old scale jerkin, and they fight monsters you never dreamed of. But their spirit, that fierce independence, is undeniably yours. And you have to admit, the special effects have improved rather dramatically since your day. The enduring power of this archetype has led their scholars to ask why the myth has remained so compelling. Is it a fantasy of empowerment? A cautionary tale? A symbol of freedom? You watch a young girl in this strange new world. Her face is illuminated by the flickering light of a screen. She is watching one of your cinematic daughters, a woman with a sword and a shield, defying an army. The girl's eyes are wide, her expression rapt. In her, you see a flicker of the same fire that burned in you as you took your first ride, as you loosed your first arrow, as you charged a Roman line. The legend is not your life, but it carries the echo of your spirit, and in that moment you understand. Your people are gone, your language is dust, your gods are forgotten, but you, through the strange, twisting, and often inaccurate filter of myth and legend, have achieved an immortality that outlasted your own world. And so, we leave you there, a whisper from a forgotten grave that has become a roar in the imagination of the world. The physical evidence of your life, unearthed by the patient scrape of a trowel, has finally met the phantom of your legend. And in that meeting, the story of the Sarmatian warrior woman is, at last, made whole. The vast grassy plains of your life have now faded, the thundering sound of hooves receding into a soft, distant echo that now blends with the gentle hum of the world around you. The sharp, cold wind of the steppe has softened into the quiet stir of air in your own room, and the immense, star-filled sky of your past has given way to the familiar, comforting darkness behind your own closed eyes. The great journey is over, and the story, which once felt so immediate and sharp, now settles into the deeper, quieter realm of memory. There is a profound stillness now, a calm that comes after a long and eventful tale has been told, leaving you with a sense of the immense silent weight of all the lives that came before. Let the epic scope of that forgotten world gently dissolve, leaving behind only a feeling of peace and the soft, steady rhythm of your own breathing. The archive is now closed, its secrets shared, and all that is left is the quiet invitation to rest.